Hey guys, welcome back. Okay, so today in class we worked with word problems, and I know everybody is thinking, oh my gosh, word problems are horrible, but they're really not if you break them down. Not only were we working with word problems, but we were working with something called interpreting remainders for long division. That is a big mouthful for saying just understanding what to do with the numbers that are left over. So let's take a minute to go through a word problem, and we're going to use the cubes method, and then we're going to interpret that remainder. All right, let's take a look at our word problem here. The fifth grade's going on a field trip. There are 197 fifth graders, 28 students fit on each bus. How many buses are needed for the field trip? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to circle the numbers. We're going to use the cubes method here to remember what we can do with a word problem in order to break it down. So we're going to circle the numbers. We have 197 fifth graders, and we know that 28 students fit on each bus. Awesome, so we just circled the numbers. Our next step in the cubes method is to underline important words. Okay, rereading this word problem. How many is a very key word are needed for the field trip. Okay, now we're going to box in the question. This is basically boxing in what it is we're trying to find. So here's our question. How many buses are needed for the field trip? Okay? E, this is my favorite one. This is where we get to scratch things out. We get to eliminate things that we aren't going to use. Okay, the fifth grade's going on a field trip. Well, that's really cool and fine and dandy, and I know we're all looking forward to it, but do we really need it for this problem? Nope. Doesn't matter if they're fifth graders or second graders or kindergartners or high schoolers. It doesn't really matter. It does matter that there are 197 fifth graders and 28 students fit on each bus. Okay, so we've just eliminated. Now our S is for solve, okay? Oh my goodness, look at that. I think we should probably underline each as well. So we have how many in each is our underlined important words. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and get going with solving this problem. So it's a pretty straightforward division problem. We have 197 fifth graders and we have 28 students on each bus. So they're asking us how many buses we need for that field trip. So we have 197 fifth graders and we have 28 buses. Okay, fantastic. So now we have 197 divided by 28. All right, 197 divided by 28. Now we could solve this in a couple of different ways. Because we are working on getting used to using partial products as an option, we're gonna go ahead and use that again. If you weren't using partial products, you could use our normal way of solving an equation. 28 doesn't go into 1, 28 does not go into 19, so then you would figure out how many times does 28 go into 197. Okay, but we're gonna go ahead and play around with these partial products, or not partial products, partial quotients, because we are working with division. So, first of all, we have 28, and we know that we're gonna take 28 times something, hopefully a number that's easy to work with, which will get us close to 197 without going over it. Okay, so 28, well, I always like to work with tens. You guys know I love tens. 28 times 10 though, 28 times 10 is gonna give us 280. 280 is far too much. But oh gosh, let's see. 5 is a pretty easy number to work with. So we could try 5, maybe 5 would work. So let's try 28 times 5. So some of this takes a little bit of trial and error. So I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna go 28 times 5. Let's see if this works. 5 times 8 is 40. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 4 is 14. 140. Okay, well that works. It's less than 197. I think we're gonna have a few more steps to go through, but that's perfectly okay. It gives the students a choice of what they wanna multiply by and what numbers they feel comfortable working with. So we have 28 times 5, which equals 140. Now we just go ahead and subtract. 7 minus 0 is 7. 9 minus 4 is 5. And 1 minus 1 obviously, is 0. So now we have this 57 and we have 28. So we have to figure out 28 times what is going to get us close to 57 without going over. Okay, so I'm going to say 1. Let's try 1 because I'm not sure. I think 2 might be too much. So let's go ahead and try 1. So 28 times, you see that 28, and there's our multiplication sign, times 1 is 28, because 1s are pretty easy to work with. All right, subtract. So here we have a subtraction problem. That's kind of the cool thing about division. We get to do subtraction, we get to do division, we get to do multiplication all in one-stop shopping. It's pretty cool. All right, so 57 minus 28. So here's our subtraction problem. We're going to have to borrow a 10. So 17 minus 8 equals 9. And then this 5, of course, because that's actually a 50 and we're borrowing a 10, that's going to become a 4. Oh my goodness, 4 minus 2 equals 29. So if we look here, 29 is larger than 28, which means we have another step. So we think to ourselves, what can I multiply 28 times that's going to give me a number that's close to 29 without going over? Well, 28 times 1 we know is just 28, so we're going to do 1 again. And there's our 28. Now remember this whole process up here, 28 times 1 equals 28. Subtract 29 minus 28 equals 1. There we go. Oh, check it out. 1 is less than 28, so this is going to be our remainder 1. And then, oh my goodness, what do we do with all these crazy numbers over here? This is where we add. So we're going to add these together. 5 plus 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So now we have 7 with a remainder of 1. Okay, fantastic. Woohoo, we're all done, right? Nope, not at all. Here's why. Looking back at our original question, how many buses are needed for the field trip? Well, you can't have 7 remainder 1 buses. That doesn't work out very well, all right? So we have 7 full buses, right? But what do we do with this remainder 1? Can we have one person hanging out all by himself, left over, not going on the field trip? No, we can't, because that would be really sad. So therefore, we're going to get another bus so that this person gets to go on the field trip with us. So while the answer may be 7 remainder 1 here, the answer to our question of how many buses are needed for the field trip is going to be 8. We are going to need 8 buses for that field trip. Because if we don't have that 8th bus, that one little person here is not going to be able to go. We're going to have a very sad 5th grader. So we will need 8 buses for the field trip. Okay, now notice something here. I'm labeling my answer. When my students solve a word problem, there are always 3 points that they can earn. They get 1 point. Okay, so as I started to say before we got so rudely interrupted, we need 8 buses because we can't have this one person hanging out by themselves. And my students will get not only a point for getting the correct answer, but they also get a point for labeling their answer. So there are 3 points available. 1 for solving it and showing me how their brain is working. Because if they get it right or they get it wrong, I want to know why. I want to know where it is that we need to work or understanding all of the concepts that we've talked about. So they get 1 point for getting it all, showing me all of their brain work. And then 1 point for having the correct answer. And then there's one super easy point to get, and that is labeling your answer. So here we have 8 buses are needed for the trip. So that is a good way to interpret our remainder. If we have something left over, chances are that we're going to need to go up 1 number. Now, one place that this could be a little bit different, in our problem here, it says, how many buses are needed for the field trip? Okay, well, what if instead of how many buses are needed for the field trip, it said, how many buses are full during the field trip? Well, that comes back on down to here. We have 7 full buses, and then we have this poor little person that's out here by themselves. So we have 7 full buses, but in order to have this little person not out there by themselves, we hired another bus because we're nice like that. So we have 8 buses needed for the field trip. I am going to do several more of these, and actually I'm going to use some examples from our book so that hopefully that will help our students and help you to understand the magic of interpreting remainders. Yes, I do get far too excited about this stuff. All right, have a good night.